I'm here with the comic book writer and artist Ryan Browne, who has most recently done the book Smoke and Mirrors through IDW. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Pretty good. What got you into making comics?
I guess I've always wanted to make comics since, my first ever comic I made was third grade. I did a Ninja Turtles comic kind of thing. So yeah, Ninja Turtles got me into comics, I guess. Yeah, and just storytelling, trying to make people laugh. That's a big thing for me. So, and comics are an amazing way to tell humorous stories. So that's why.
And besides the Ninja Turtles, did you have other influences?
I love the Tick, and I'm a big movie fan. I think a lot of my humor and inspiration comes from movies. The Coen Brothers and The Simpsons are like the two like in terms of like sense of humor and storytelling that I take a lot from them. And also Scud the Disposable Assassin, just in terms of a comic that is just balls to the wall, just making stuff up, just having fun, being surreal, having fun because it's a comic and you can do whatever you want, and just going crazy and letting your imagination run wild.
Can you tell us a little bit about your book, Blast Furnace?
Yeah, Blast Furnace is a book that I just have. I have print editions now. I did a Kickstarter campaign for it, and it is an improv comic. I set some rules for myself about how to make it, and it basically was a page a day, an hour per page, for 6 months. And so every day, it was kind of like my warm-up before I did my regular work. So every day I would sit down and I'd pull out the page and I'd be like, all right, what's happening on this page? And then I would set the clock for an hour and I would write and draw the page, and it had to be done by the end. And then I would go on to normal work. And so I did that for 6 months, and then I put it all together as a 130-some page book.
Doing an improv comic is something I've never seen before. How is that process?
Well, it comes, for me, I made it up from doing 24-hour comics. A 24-hour comic is something that Scott McCloud invented, where you produce a 24-page comic in 24 hours, and it's an hour per page, and it's like this marathon endurance test. And the whole thing about it is that there's no pre-planning. So, like, you have to be writing the next page while you're drawing the page you're on, kind of thing. And so I really enjoy doing that, and that's how I come up with a lot of my ideas, is like spur-of-the-moment improv style. So I was like, what if I had to do it every single day and just stretch it out over a long period of time? So that's, because then I figured, like, I could be doing it on the side, and in the end, I've got, 6 months worth of comic. That's a whole story, like, in addition to what I'm doing. Like, the drawings are crude, and there's misspellings and all this kind of stuff, and the story just kind of, like, scatters all around, but for me, it was like really satisfying because I had to become a more confident storyteller and more confident drawer and inker because I had to just produce and do it really quickly. So actually what I had is just a side fun, like, throwaway project, ended up being one of the best things I've ever done and made me a much better artist through the process. So yeah, so I tell people about it, and I encourage artists and writers to do it. And I don't know if anyone else is doing anything like that, but it's it worked for me. It made me much better as a storyteller. So, yeah.
Another book you're showing off today at the con is God Hates Astronauts. What is that about?
God Hates Astronauts is it's really hard to pin down what it's about. It's a humor book. It's a superhero parody, but it's a bunch of self-centered, narcissistic, small-minded people with superpowers that are hired by NASA to stop all farmers who have been launching themselves into outer space with homemade rocket ships. But that mission objective doesn't really get addressed because they're too busy having extramarital affairs and stopping bank robbing owls with crossbows and fighting old-timey boxers in their army of boxing bears and ghost cow heads and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it really ends up being a book about an extramarital affair between the lead two people of this super team. And it just has whatever. It's got a tiger who eats a cheeseburger and stuff. I don't know. Yeah, weird stuff. It all makes sense, though. You read it through. It's important to me that I let my imagination do what it wants to do, but that it still is a story. It still has a logic. This world has to have a logic to it. It can't just be crazy for the sake of being crazy. It's gotta make sense. You gotta be able to read it and get a story. So, yeah.
You worked on a book that I've personally really enjoyed, Smoke and Mirrors. Did you research a lot about magic to draw that book?
All the research was done for me, which was great because I don't know anything about magic. Well, I know stuff about it now, but going into it, I didn't know anything. And the book is co-written by John Armstrong, who's one of the world's premier sleight-of-hand and up-close magicians. And so he really wanted a comic that appealed to the magic community. And so everything was very, very truthful to its sources. And so everything, and John being such a great sleight-of-hand magician, everything was referenced basically off of John. Like if I needed to see how cards were held, he would just send me photos of his hands holding the cards. And, any further information, he sent me videos of people performing the tricks that I needed to replicate in the book. So it was all incredibly authentic and well researched, and there's classic tricks in there, and there's references to magicians, and lots of stuff that I didn't pick up on that was explained to me while I was doing it. And that the trade just came out, and in the back a lot of it has annotations by John explaining where all the tricks come from, what all the references are. It's kind of fun. So now I sort of know some stuff about magic, maybe a little bit. I understand a little bit more about what it is to be a magician, I guess.
Well, thank you so very much for talking with us today, and I hope you have a wonderful time here at the New York Comic Con.
Thank you very much. This was fun.